Welcome everyone. So today we are the first panelist and very exciting one. So good morning everyone. The topic which we are discussing today is decoding the tech-enthused mind and investigating the mindset of brands building for the modern Indian consumer. So as we all know, modern Indian consumer is pretty hard to impress and become a loyal consumer for yourself, right? So this is probably going to be a very interesting session. We will touch upon some of the areas here, starting with digitization, AI, cloud, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for introducing all the panelists. What I'll do is, without further ado, let's get into the exact questions and then probably take opinions from all of our esteemed panelists. Before we even give the details, let's all introduce ourselves. My name is Amit Tenglikar and I'm from Thornton and I'm one of the directors with the firm. Then we have, probably if you can introduce yourself, just quick 30 seconds each.
Hi, I'm Vaibhav Tewari. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Portea Medical. We are India's largest home healthcare services company.
Hi, I'm Abhishek. I'm one of the co-founders at Xoxoday. Xoxoday is a leading rewards and recognition and incentive gamification platform globally.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yash, Dayal. I'm the CTO at Wakefit. Wakefit is India's leading home solutions company. We started in 2016 with mattresses. Now we've evolved into home furniture, home decor, anything that you need to improve your home.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm Vivek. I'm Assistant Vice President at Swiggy, and at Swiggy we are building unparalleled convenience to Indian consumers.
Hey everyone, good morning. I'm Adarsh. I head technology and pre-sales at Niveus Solutions. Niveus Solutions is a premier Google Cloud partner, and we help customers with services on Google Cloud.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Sachin and I lead the digital data business for Google Cloud.
Thank you so much. So let's get into the first topic, which is our consumer-centric innovation. So how can brands leverage AI? I mean, everyone is talking about AI, so let's understand some of the practical concepts of how we are looking at AI, data analytics to better understand and predict the needs of the modern Indian consumer, and also the personalization, right? So we cannot have one size fits all. So how personalization helps you to reach out to those consumers and how that will bring up the loyal customers to you. Probably I can start with Vaibhav first.
Sure. Thank you. So I will just give the perspective from healthcare perspective. We are home healthcare. We are in healthcare for last 11-12 years. And have seen the evolution of healthcare and of course how the technology is getting used in healthcare and how that has helped basically to make healthcare a lot more personalized. If you look at the evolution of data and the communication, we had satellite TV, of course you had laptop, you had mobile phones, and of course everything with AI and digitalization, mobile phone, everything is very personalized, right? And a lot of consumer driven services and the products got a lot more personalized very fast. So whether you had Netflix and Amazon and even Swiggy and a lot of those things, people just could choose what they eat, what they wear, what they consume from entertainment perspective and all, became personalized much faster. Healthcare is a lot more complex. I mean, you also know that healthcare also probably is a laggard in that sense from technology adoption perspective. And personalization in healthcare is a lot more complex also, because it's like every individual is built very differently and has probably different combination of health parameters as well as diseases and so on and so forth. So how do you personalize healthcare? How do you use technology to personalize healthcare? And what has happened with the advent of digitalization, AI and data analytics, we are seeing a lot more data being collected and a lot more personalization which is possible today. So I'll give an example. See, look at diabetes management. So somebody who had diabetes say 20 years back will only go to a lab, give a sample, get blood test done and manage their sugar, right? In 20 years back, 15 years back, we got glucometers. So you can do the same thing at home in a more easy and convenient manner. And the latest in last couple of years, you have things like what is called continuous glucose monitoring patch. So these are small patches you can just put on your body and it measures your sugar round the clock, and the data gets collected, data gets basically analyzed at the back end by a doctor or subject matter expert, and real-time intervention can be created for you. So what we do, for example, and that's something which has been really good in personalization of healthcare, is basically leveraging this data and creating individual treatment plan for each of these patients, whosoever is working with us, right? And that is something which has picked up momentum a lot actually. So of course I'm talking of diabetes, but look at even the vitals monitoring. There's so many point of care devices. Look at your watches, smart watches, right? A lot of those things also are things which are getting your health data back to a central place where somebody can look at that data, analyze the data, and make it very personalized for you. All of that has started happening in last 4 or 5 years. I mean, there are now ECG patches. I mean, if somebody who's done ECG will know that you go to the hospital, lie down, 12 leads, they'll stick everywhere with the gooey thing, and of course, you don't feel good after that, right? Today, the latest thing in which we started doing recently is the ECG patches. You just take it as a patch and put it over here, and it basically monitors your heart around the clock. You can do it for 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, and doctor can really work on your case in real-time basis. You don't even need to go to hospital for that, and many more things which are coming up now. So if you do a combination of all of that, the personalization of healthcare is something which is the biggest game changer, and that's where technology and digitalization has helped a lot. 10 years back, 15 years back, doctor was the center of the universe as far as healthcare is concerned. Today, that piece is moving to patients themselves. You can manage your healthcare, and of course with all the other thing like Ayushman Bharat and All India, this digital mission, your data also is available for hospitals across the board, right? So with those 2 or 3 kind of things, the way we are looking at in next 10 to 15 years, healthcare will become a lot more personalized. You can carry your own plans, you can carry your own treatment, and you can avail it from anywhere and everywhere. I think that's a big change compared to what we had last 20 years back. If you look at the hospital and healthcare, and again there home care becomes very critical, because we are the ones who are basically at the patient home, making sure these things are getting delivered for the patient, and of course working as the quote-unquote middleware between hospitals, doctors, and the patient. So that is something which we believe technology has played significant role. And this I'm talking personalization perspective. Of course, technology also has played a big role from making it more efficient. If you look at doctors, the nursing professionals, and everything, we always have scarcity of those in our country, in every country. But with technology, with real-time monitoring, with connected devices, the multiplication of those resources is possible. With basically AI, the multiplication of those resources is possible. So the same medical professional can support a lot more patients than what we did in the past. So I think that's another thing which will probably play out in a significant manner in the next 10 to 20 years. And so both personalization and efficiency improvement are real big positive outcomes of all the investments in technology which we have seen in last few years.
Thank you, Vaibhav. I mean, treatment, you get it anywhere and anytime and everywhere for that matter. Makes very exciting news here. So moving from that healthcare to probably Vivek, who would give us a perspective of getting your food, your groceries, anything and everything to your home in 10 minutes or probably max at 30 minutes. So Vivek, probably you can add some things on that front.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks Vaibhav for acknowledging the success of Swiggy in building personalization and all those things. And before I actually talk about Swiggy, I'll take a step back. So whatever we are doing at Swiggy, it is the mirror of society. What society is doing, or how general hundreds of years or 200s of years, the Indian retailers have solved that problem. If you go to any retail shop out there, there is a personal connect. There is a personal connect that he knows you by name. He knows your preferences. Okay. The problem when we are building a consumer brand like Swiggy or any other consumer brand, the problem is how do you replicate that? So that's where the AI and analytics come into picture. You collect all the data and you create those segments. You say, okay, now the segment, because becoming our computers, machines, everything is becoming more and more powerful. Now, as a brand, I can create more and more segment. I can say segment of 1 if I want to be today. It just cost prohibitive today. But in future, 10 years from today, what I see, we'll be able to build segment of one. Every consumer, every one of us will have their preference saved and learned by model. And this is where the real power of AI analytics come into picture. Where I am saying, okay, it is segment of one. And personalization, all those things are already like, Swiggy is already done a really good job. So if you go search for anything like, you search for food, okay, or forget about food or anything, these are like very mundane example. You search for fever, you open our Swiggy app, search for fever. It will give you the food which you can eat when you are unwell. So that is the power of analytics. How do we analyze that? What when you put any word, maybe not relevant to food, but will give you the result relevant to you, and we can search across food, quick commerce, or anything else. So these are the things that every one of us can utilize, in my opinion.
Great. I mean, we all know that how good is quick commerce, and then how it is helping everyone, making sure our lives are much easier. But the underlying tech behind that is cloud, microservices, so on and so forth. So probably I would request Adarsh to put some light on how the brands are adopting digital first scenario, and then how the clouds and the underlying tech is helping.
So I think when it comes to marketing or selling a product, right, you need to be where your consumers are. And over the last couple of decades, consumers have moved quickly from newspapers to maybe internet to mobile phone, right? So now personalization has to be digital first, because most of your consumers are on the phone, right? You have to hyper personalize. I mean, a product, you can't generalize your marketing strategies or your implementations. It has to be digital first. It has to be personalized to a user. It has to be personalized to a location. You can't sell rotis in South India, right? I mean, it might not have the same effect, right? So what has happened is, I think, marketing or focus on a product, selling a product, has moved from newspaper ads to collaborating with influencers. The influencers, or even if you look at web series, they are also a good market or a good platform for selling a product, right? I mean, if you think about TVs, I think at some point TVs were a good ad platform. But what happened is you skip ads or you change channels, right? But if you sell a product through a web series, there's good catch. I mean, it's mixed well into the content, right? So influencers become a big part of digital first strategy, because they are taking it directly to the consumer, and the story is also put right along with the content that is curated. I think social media plus the digital search, the amount of smartphone usage in India has grown a lot, and also unit cost of data in India is much lower than many other countries. So if I go anywhere outside India, it's much costlier to use data than in India. And maybe because of, I mean, some behavioral changes because of data being so cheap would be something like, I mean, if I want to look at biryani on Swiggy, I would keep searching for hotels one after another, and I would not get tired after 30 minutes also, because I know I'm not paying a lot for it. But if I'm in Singapore, I'm paying a lot for data. So I might just look at my favorite biryani place and order and get out of it, right? Even those make a huge difference in behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I concur with you. This was not a situation where internet was that cheap, like probably 10 years back. I was in Dubai, and then the internet cost was high. And even now, I would believe that India is the most cheapest, right? And then you were mentioning a lot of influencers taking the ads to the consumers and digital-centric point of view. And when we speak of ads, probably we can ask Sachin to come in. He's leading Google Clouds, and he would probably add some of the perspective on how the brands are taking this digital-first strategies what are some of the things which you come across when you speak to the brands, and then how do you support them?
Sure. So I think, see, first of all, I think I want to highlight the fact that most companies are looking at a digital first strategy. But what we are also seeing is that the regular traditional companies, which are the brick and mortar, are also looking at a digital first strategy. But that means it's a mindset change, right? Just having a website or having an app does not make you a digital first company. That's like, comparing, let's say, a Netflix with a Sony. There's a big difference, right? So Netflix is a digital first company. It's born from the ground as a digital company. Whereas Sony had to take a lot of what they learned on the traditional world and figure out how to make it digital first, right? So I think the example that Vivek was giving, if I were to start a company, a restaurant today, and try to do deliveries, the scale that I would achieve is very limited compared to, let's say, if I would do deliveries through Swiggy. That scale is far higher, right? So I think digital first is kind of a no-brainer right now. Most companies that want to achieve a certain scale want to do digital first. Where we are seeing some of our customers look at it just differently. They are looking at ways in which, let's say, Google is actually traditionally a digital first company, right? We don't have anything that's offline. So a lot of work of ours goes in telling customers how to run some of these things digitally, how to think of it, changing that mindset, figuring out, okay, if I were to do this in the traditional segment versus, let's say, a digital first segment, how would I approach this differently? So a lot of effort is going into consulting some of these companies to get a digital first mindset, and not just, so everything needs to be digital after that, right? That means even the channel of acquisition of that customer needs to be digital, nurturing that customer, using AI and analytics to ensure that the customer is maintained within the systems, so that you can nurture that customer over the journey, right? Like, simple example could be, I tried to order on Swiggy, I did not complete my order, but what does Swiggy do after that, right? Like, do they spend enough analytics to nurture me over that life cycle so that eventually they get an order out of me? So these are the things that we're seeing with our customers.
Absolutely, it makes sense. From Google, who would provide you the services, to probably understanding someone who also consumes that, right? Probably, Yash, you want to add some things on digital first strategy, how you have undergone these changes, how you have seen what services would support your own firm, or of course in the industry, with your knowledge, and then also slightly touch upon the cultural aspect of it. How is it to make a change in a company and go digital first?
Sure. I completely concur with the thought that there's a big difference between companies who are digitally native or digitally first versus traditional companies who started off in a more traditional manner. I think, especially if you dial back a couple of years, especially when COVID started, you could actually see that even there it was a big difference. For example, a company which was digitally native was much easier for that organization to adopt to remote working. It was much easier to adopt to that company where most of the sales started coming from the online channels, compared to a traditional company where a large part of the revenue stream was coming from traditional, from brick and mortar stores or from traditional channels, and a lot of their data, a lot of their infrastructure was actually on-prem, which people could not access because they were not able to travel, and that actually sparked a fast digitalization movement on the traditional companies as well, and that's where a lot of companies started adopting cloud. Wakefit, thankfully, has always been a digitally native company. Whenever we think about reaching out to consumers, whenever we think about launching new products, whenever we think about improving processes and bringing efficiency to the system, tech is a core part of that. And we have very interesting challenges in Wakefit. For example, because we deal in these huge, large products, so the supply chain is fairly complex, because when you're trying to move large items of furniture, the more you move them, the more expensive it is, and they also become more prone to damages. So we actually have built our own in-house supply chain mechanism, where we actually ensure that the transport of those furnitures is actually limited and we try to keep the movements at as minimum as possible, while ensuring we're able to deliver as in a very fast manner to the consumers. I think then again how the company is reaching out to consumers will also vary a lot between digitally native companies versus traditional companies. So traditionally, I think as it was mentioned earlier in the panel as well, so traditional companies may look at like doing TV ads, doing ads between shows, whereas digitally native companies by default their first preference would be to actually do performance ads, show ads on search engines, show ads on OTT platforms, and maybe have some dynamic content. So if you're seeing an ad on an OTT platform, maybe you can at that time engage with the app and get an offer. So a lot of these are like very difficult for traditional non-digital native companies. So.
Yeah, I mean that sticks around. How do you put the advertisement or the ads to the consumer and they don't feel it's advertisement, right?
I just wanted to add one more thing, please. So in terms of transformation, I think that's one interesting transformation which Wakefit is doing now. So we've actually we've actually taken one step above being a digitally native company. So we actually launched our first range of IoT products. So they were launched in June, and we have products like there's a sleep tracker which you can actually put under your mattress and it'll regularly track how well you're sleeping. Then we have a temperature control system that you can put on your bed, and you can actually change the temperature, the temperature of the bed, so that you get a better sleep. And so I'll actually talk more about those a bit later. But I think one of the transformations we're seeing in Wakefit is the transition which a traditional company needs to make to a digitally native company. A similar transition is needed from a digitally native company to a IoT connected system. So how we actually sell these products, or how we will do customer support of them, how will we do service and repairs of them, all of that is very different from our traditional, from like a mattress or a furniture. So that's a big evolution which is happening internally in Wakefit.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's very interesting. I tried taking my smart watch to sleep and tracking it. After 2 days, I was not happy with that. I just removed the smartwatch and started sleeping because I'm not accustomed to have that on my wrist, right?
So that's exactly what the first product is. So it's a contactless sleep tracker. So you don't have to have the hassle of wearing a watch or remembering to charge it. All you do is it just integrates seamlessly into your lifestyle. You just have the system connected and you just go and sleep. Next day morning you'll actually have all your sleep metric and all your sleep data. So it's completely seamless, it's completely contactless.
Yeah, I think that I should explore that. So that is the digital innovation we are talking about, right? So that's a digital innovation which will solve a real problem. And also when I was hearing Vivek, he mentioned that there are probably Vivek or Adarsh, I'm not sure, someone might not eat roti too much here. I mean, I like rotis, naans very much, right? And for that matter, paneer, butter masala, right? Having said that, there is a culture, different cultures, subcultures in India every 100 kilometers probably, right? And how do you navigate through that? Probably Abhishek, you want to put some relevance on and well into details about cultural relevance and how you would put that in your programs and how that will make sense to all of our consumers, right?
Yeah, so I think technology today touches every aspect of your cultural, ways that you have, right? For example, if you take language, arts, tradition, education, health, everything that you take, right? And all the companies that we see today, right? For example, every company is trying to solve something which has a core values with respect to culture, right? If you look at some of the examples, right? For example, Swiggy, let's say, right? Now, the food habits and eating, there has been a core cultural ethics with respect to reasons, right? Now, Swiggy has been able to solve and is solving a lot of such problems associated with culture. So, if technology deviates too much from your cultural aspect, then I think there are a lot of clash that tend to happen, right? And hence, it is very important and imperative for the technology to be near to the cultural values of the region, right? Now, one of the things that I can give example from my side, my company Xoxoday, they solve rewarding and recognition for a lot of corporates, right? Now, if you look at this, this has been a very traditional approach and a problem statement since ages, where if you go back, let's say 10 years back in your career, what would you get as a reward, right? When you are working at a company, right? Probably a gift box of dry fruits, right?
A t-shirt.
T-shirt, right? And sometimes a mug or whatever, right? Which you actually go back at your home and throw it in a corner, right? Now, the culture of rewarding, if you look at it, right? How we change the whole scenario. So, we did not want to challenge that aspect that, okay, you completely get away from rewarding, but we wanted to obviously give users a better option, better opportunity, and a more personalized one. For example, who would not mind, if I get rewarded something which I need, right? So, if the reward technology evolves to a level where, I am able to choose my own gift, correct? From the plethora of gift options that I have, why would I not do that, right? The first step that we did was, transforming the physical gifting to digital gifting, right? And then second step was optimizing it and personalizing it for the end user, right? So the corporates, when they give the points to you, and all of you must be getting a lot of points for your credit card consumption also, right? And those points you redeem as loyalty points on the marketplace that banks have. Every bank has their own marketplace, but at the back end they are all tied up with some other players like us, because we provide that option to them, right? So you can go ahead and choose, redeem your points against the choice of option that you want, right? Not just what banks want to give you, right? So there has been an evolution on that thing. Now this is evolving further, where you are seeing a lot of AI and Gen AI coming into perspective, where this AI would be, knowing your preference and would be doing a lot of booking on your behalf just at the, click of a button, right? So, this being one of the examples, there are multiple other examples. For example, let's look at a lot of burning examples in society that we face, right? Language barrier, right? Every state has their own issues, right? Now, technology definitely is, solving this kind of problem and bringing people more closer than, widening the gap, right? How are they doing? Because a lot of solutions are getting enabled through AI using vernacular solutions and all those stuff, right? So I think technology today is touching every aspect of culture, be it food, be it the way you, spend your money on your health. For example, Vaibhav gave a very good example, for example, of measuring your, using ECG to measure your, heart rate and all the health parameters, right? Now, if you go back, let's say 10-20 years back, right, nobody was so conscious about their health. Nobody would even care about talking about it, right? I mean, they think, okay, when the problem happens, we'll go to the doctor, right? But today, if you look at the scene, it is more like a proactive approach, not like a, approach that's on the back end, right? A proactive approach where you get the data upfront, you are already connected with the doctor using telehealth, telemedicine, whatever you can use, or you can also book your appointment seamlessly based on the kind of disease that you have, very personalized, right? So I think technology has a huge role in touching each of the aspects, and it is modifying for good. For example, if you look into the scenario day in, day out, I think the problems are increasing, it's not decreasing, and if we have to solve, I think technology has to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two things which I felt very relevant is using technology for probably language, breaking the language barriers, right? And making sure that you get what is required for you, probably through the loyalty program and the gifting, what you said. I mean, I of course like some surprises. I hope you have surprise gifts which is listed there. I don't want to choose all the time what I like, but just surprise.
But that is where gamification plays a role, right? I mean,
right.
You can do a spin a wheel, you can do scratch a card. I mean, which you also get in terms of when you make a payment using your Google Pay, right? You always get an option to scratch a card and you win something.
Yeah.
Always
something which I'd never use. Sorry. Okay, but having said that, I understand the way you can gamify the things, and then you can bring back that surprise element in it, and then I think we will use that someday. When we are speaking about cultural relevance, probably I'll bring Vivek also to understand more about how and what, because we have so many festivals, so many events which is happening, which are very much taken up in a certain parts of India, right? The other day I was looking for, my kid is 7 years old and he wanted a friendship band. I mean, of course, I said, okay, let's go to one of the quick commerce ones, and I can find it very easily. Or if you have something coming up in the next few days, Janmashtami or Raksha Bandhan for that matter, just few days back, we can get it on quick commerce these days. So how you are imbibing culture and your services together and making relevance to the end consumer?
So, what we need to understand in Indian context, culture is a major part of our daily life. And this culture, we may say that it's diverse, it's different from one place to another place, but there is a lot of common ground. If you see our poor infrastructure, that is common across India. Traffic is not a problem of Bangalore. So what we need to do first, we need to actually find common ground and then build on top of it. So if you see Swiggy, what we have solved in quick commerce, it's the hassle, a daily hassle. And that hassle is relevant for a customer in Chennai and Kolkata and Delhi or any place in India. So I want my groceries while sitting at the comfort of my home. I don't want to take my car out. I don't want to take my bike out. I don't want to cross the road. There are n number of reasons. Okay. So solving, first find the problem and then solve for it. And when you do that, it actually cut across culture. And you are building for culture. So the problem, the first is that common problem. The second is that common values. Now you talked about friendship band. That value, you call it friendship band, you call it Rakhi. There is a culture of relation, very close relation in India. There is a culture of hospitality. There is a culture of Atithi Devo Bhava, welcoming someone into home. So what you do when you are building a tech brand, a consumer brand, you build for it. You build like for example in Instamart, Swiggy Instamart, we have built all those things into our brand itself, saying okay, yes, today it is Rakhi, now we'll celebrate the Rakhi. And it is not about Rakhi, celebrate Ugadi, celebrate Pongal, everything, celebrate all the festivals across India. So that is a cultural part of the brand building. On top of it, what we do, then we do personalization. Let's say IPL is running and RCB has not won a cup, so cup namde, and that could be a sentiment that we can cater to Bangalore people. Okay. Similarly, at the same time when we are saying cup namde, we are also encouraging Delhi people to win. That is personalization and segmentation. That then you cater to the very specific segment.
It makes real sense of personalization and then giving the right search results when someone is searching for something, right? Which is like, for example, Pongal you mentioned. Probably South Indian states are very much into Pongal, but not probably the East India part. So I think that relevance is still there, and then probably you have to be imbibed in that. And with getting you the personalized results comes a lot of data collection, right? And then with data collection, some might be okay, some might not be, right? There is a very thin line between how you use the data of the consumer, which you have already collected. Of course, with the DPDPA Act coming in, you would take those consents before you even collect it and then analyze it. And of course, you notify the consumer what you are doing with that, right? And that will become with the guidelines yet to come, and it's already a law. So now, for the personalization, you have to collect data, and for collecting of that data and analyzing that data, how ethically you can be, because of course I'll ask Vaibhav on that, because he deals with a lot of sensitive data, right? I do not want my results or my treatment to be shown to someone else. Yeah, it's very personal for someone. So how do you balance between innovation and privacy? Probably Vaibhav.
I think here again technology plays a very critical role, especially from healthcare perspective. There's a time when somebody basically will get their blood test done and they want their reports to be given and they say, "Okay, can you WhatsApp it to me?" I can't WhatsApp it to you actually, because that's not, at that time it was, if I had to do WhatsApp, system was not integrated, I have to give it to somebody who will use their WhatsApp to send it to you, right? And that kind of thing we saw even in our system, a lot of other places also. You see that the way we treated data was without thinking. I mean, especially in healthcare, you have to be a lot more thoughtful, right? So now with the technology and with the data collection and how you analyze that and how do you basically interpret it, what kind of treatment plans you create with that, and with whom you can share, okay? And how much do you share, and how do you work on the treatment, how do you update them on their progress, and so on and so forth. Even in our case, many of the times we'll take care of the parents and the data has to be shared with the children, right? There are many situations like that. We'll be doing the work and there's no other caregiver for the family at home, right? So how do you handle those kind of situations? So keeping, like, I mean, I would say that Chinese wall kind of arrangements, in our case, I will give you another example. We treat patients from different hospitals. And the hospital's worry is always about saying, okay, will you give my patient to some other hospital or will you treat my patient directly, right? Now, how do you take care of those? And that's where the whole, what we call the Chinese wall arrangement, which is very important for us, becomes very critical in the way a partner will be convinced and the patient will be convinced. And as you are saying, with the laws coming into play, it becomes our responsibility. But I would also say that some of these things are evolving. I mean, given that large amount of data is getting collected now, correct? So we'll also probably some of these process and systems will evolve. Other thing when you're collecting data, I think becomes very important is that India changes, as you are saying, every 100 kilometer India changes, right? So like data which you are using for Chennai, you may or may not be able to use it fully for a Bangalore patient. I'll tell you, we manage over 100,000 diabetes patients a month. Half of them come from Kerala. Now Kerala diet, Kerala patient profile will be very different from like North India patient profile, right? Especially in healthcare perspective. You cannot take this data and say, okay, basis data, what I've learned, I will use it for somebody sitting in Lucknow. Life doesn't work like that. So I think both ethical as well as utilizing the data the right way becomes very important.
Right, absolutely. Probably we can touch upon the use of that ethical consideration with Sachin and Adarsh. Just 1 minute each of you, and then probably you can also give a technology background to that.
Sure. So Google today has around 9 applications used by 1 billion plus users per application. So a lot of power, but with that comes all that responsibility that Google has to manage. And I think what Google has done significantly well is to ensure that it takes personal information very, very seriously, right? And it's grounds up. So we've gone back on first principles to figure out, are we protecting users' data enough? Is there any leak of information to ensure that nobody's information is out? Though public opinion is a little different at times, but you know, there is serious intent that goes in to ensure that user data is sacrosanct, right? It's protected and nobody gets access to that kind of data. And I think ensuring that investing as much as possible in security to ensure that these systems don't hallucinate a lot. Like I'm sure now with all these models coming in, you are at the risk of hallucination as well. So you have to be very cognizant of what ethical boundaries you may cross. You may hurt someone culturally. So you have to be careful about these things, and Google errs on the side of being extremely careful and extremely cautious before it releases any products out, and which is why you will see Google taking all of this very seriously before customers get to use it, right? Because at the scale at which Google operates, any problem can immediately become a billion-sized problem almost overnight.
Right. Adarsh, you look.
Yeah, I think ethics is a very grey area. I mean, when it comes to ethics, my ethics might not match with somebody else's ethics, right? Even between companies. I mean, if you look at the news right now, there are models which somebody like Elon justifies saying that my model can generate any content that a customer asks. But for others, it might be ethically wrong to do that, right? So for us, ethics should be implemented by design, right? It should not be by regulation. I mean, you think what is right or wrong. A company company has to decide what is right or wrong for the customer. And to do that, I think being transparent as an organization about data, like what data you are collecting about the consumer is very important. I think that transparency will gain trust. Telling somebody that I'm collecting this information for XYZ reason and I'm going to use in XYZ way, and I'm not going to expose this or I'm not going to sell this to someone else, and technically implementing the same thing grounds up is going to be very important when it comes to ethics for us. Right?
Makes sense, absolutely, it makes sense. At the end of the day, what you do when no one is seeing you is ethics, right? You have to be true to yourself. So I think we have touched upon all the areas. If Yash or Abhishek wants to make 1 or 2 points on, probably Yash on AR, VR or IoT or technology adoption.
Sure, thanks a lot. I think I'll also I'll also take the opportunity to plug the 2 products that we've launched. The first one, which we talked about, the sleep sensor, that's called Track 8. And then the other one which we've launched is Regulate. This is the one which can actually control the surface temperature of a bed from 15 degrees to 40 degrees. So if it's very warm, you can actually cool the bed down. If it's cool, you can warm the bed up. And I think now coming back to the IoT part, I think there is it's a very interesting journey. So if you look at even if you look at home lighting, a couple of years ago you had like basic LED bulbs, and now almost the price difference between a smart bulb versus a regular LED bulb is very negligible. And I think maybe in a couple of years down the line, when you go, you'll probably not find a non-smart bulb. So we're actually seeing that IoT is actually becoming more and more prevalent in India, becoming more and more prevalent all across the world. And the driving factor behind that is increase in internet adoption. As mentioned earlier, India is one of the countries with the lowest amount of cost for data, and the smartphone penetration in India is just phenomenal. I think there's a huge potential of smartphone penetration in the rural market, in rural India. I think the expectation is about 60% growth is going to happen over the next few years in rural India in terms of internet penetration, in terms of smartphone penetration. So as you start getting devices which are a lot more powerful, as you start getting devices which are connected, there's a natural inflow that's going to happen for IoT devices. And that's one of the reasons why Wakefit actually decided to go into the sleep tech and build the IoT products.
Thanks. Probably, one last comment from Abhishek.
Just adding to
open question and answer.
Yeah, what Yash said. I think the success of technology also depends upon how ethical we are at the back end, right? Because if you look at the consumer behavior, right? If you're not ethical, customers know, right? There's something fishy and things are not right, and don't want to interact with this brand because things are not right. And hence I think it makes a lot more sense for any brand to have a very, the best practices combined with the security and compliances.
Absolutely.
To keep it at the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. Security, privacy and compliance and ethics, cornerstones of any business, right? So probably we'll open it for question and answers. Probably 1 or 2 if there is any, or we'll move to the...
Alright, looks like we're out of time, but do we have any questions from the audience? It looks like just one question, so requesting you to please keep your question short. Can we have the mic being passed on real quick? Sure.
Here, in the first.
In this room.
I have one question on the data, right? I am very much worried as a consumer that my own data is being used against me. For example, if I keep buying a particular product without discount, next time system knows that, right? I don't have to be offered a discount, I will still buy. For example, a lot of screenshots on Twitter, right? Swiggy, one or Zomato Gold customer being given a higher bill than somebody who's not a paid member, right? So what is the thought of panel on this to protect interest of the consumers? Thank you.
Someone wants to take this?
Okay, so let me just give some pointers on that. I think a while back I was also talking about compliances, and government is also bringing a lot of rules on this privacy segment, right? So I think all the brands are also trying to get into it, and they are taking consent from you that your data would be used for this analytical purposes and this thing, and we are not going to pass your data to any third party or use it for some other purpose, right? So so government is making it necessary and making it as a part of compliance that you take consent while transacting with the consumer, and consumer has to give a consent for use of his data. To an extent that I know because I work with a lot of banks, I know that they even prevent solutions like us or any other vendors, right? They say that you don't store the data of my consumer unless you ask them, and if they don't say no, you have to pass through your data to the end vendor who is providing the end service, right? So I think a lot of compliance and a lot of solutions are getting built up and it's pushed through by the compliances on the government.
Just add to that quickly, I think the journey, of course there will be instances like that where you may feel cheated saying my data has got used against me, but I would say if you look at holistically, the advantages which you will have with the data being analyzed a lot more than what probably you lose out, and you will lose out sometimes, it's unavoidable actually, that's the reality of life. But I think the overall outcome will be a lot more positive for a consumer than negative actually, that's the way to look at it.
And India IMC is leading this whole quick commerce, digital first, digital natives, now, I mean, of course I can say in the world. So it is maturing, and probably these points which you relevantly mentioned probably will get addressed.
I also just wanted to add one more thing. I think at the end of the day, it's the consumer who's making the brand as well, right? So I know that a lot of the companies, this is a very, very debated and a very, very conscious thought, and there are strong guardrails that are built into it to ensure that these kind of things don't happen as well. Because finally, I think the worst that a business can do is lose trust of the consumer. So which is why I think all companies need to be extra careful, extra cautious. While you may have the data, while it may be a short-term benefit, but I think companies need to look at the long-term benefit. And I think overall, because consumers' trust is very important for brands to survive, these cases will be very, very, I think, small and may not become as prevalent as you feel.
It would be addressed probably in the future.
Alright, with that, thank you so much. Can we have a huge round of applause for our panelists here and the moderator, ladies and gentlemen?